Today you're going to be measuring and classifying angles. Please make sure you have the supplies needed for the activity. Before we start on the worksheet that you should have, I'd like to review the parts of an angle. What do A and C represent on this angle? What does B represent? A and C are the rays of the angle and B is the vertex. What type of angle is this? Because this angle is greater than 90 degrees, it is an obtuse angle. What type of angle is this? Because this angle is smaller than 90 degrees, it is an acute angle. You also need to know the parts of a protractor for this activity. Down here at what looks like the crosshairs, it's called the center or origin of the protractor. This is where the vertex of an angle needs to line up. This blue line is called the baseline that matches up with 0 and 180 degrees. This is where a ray of the angle needs to line up. These inner numbers, the ones that are closer to the center, are called the inner scale, and the outer numbers here are called the outer scale. Here we have an angle that is properly lined up with the protractor. You'll know the vertex is lined up here with the center right there in the middle, and one of the rays is lined up with the baseline. Now, to measure this angle to see how many degrees it is, we need to pay attention to where 0 starts with the ray. For example, here is 0, here is 180. So 0 is on this side. So we're going to be using the inner scale to measure this angle. Before we even measure the angle, what type of angle is it? Let's go ahead and measure it. So we're going to look at the inner scale right here at 0. And we're going to go from 10, 20, 30, and then further than 30. And if we look up here, we follow the 30, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more lines. So therefore, this angle's measure is 35 degrees. Here we have a protractor, a picture of a protractor on top of an angle. The green here is a ray of the angle. The dot here is the vertex, and the purple is another ray. This angle is not lined up with the protractor correctly. One part of it is correct. What part is lined up correctly? Well, if you look here, the ray of the angle or the arm of the angle is lined up with the baseline correctly. What is not correct about this, how this angle is lined up? Well, if you look here, this is the vertex. The vertex is supposed to be right down here at the center, but it's too far to the left. So therefore, if we lined it up like this, it looks like the angle is going to be about 85 degrees. So if we fix it, here, now it's correct. The vertex is in the center. This is still lined up, and we follow the line up here. What is the measurement of this angle? Well, the measurement of this angle would be 80 degrees because we go from 0 to 80. Common mistake would be 100 because that means you followed the 180, the outer scale, but 100 wouldn't make sense because this is an acute angle, so an acute angle has to be less than 90, which is 80 degrees. Some recommendations for when you're measuring angles on your worksheet. First off, I recommend you highlight the entire angle with a light color so you can see it through the protractor. I also want to point out you need to pay attention to certain details. The ray of the angle needs to be lining up with the baseline, so it should be pointing at 0 or the 180. And the vertex must be positioned in the center or origin part of the protractor. Okay, it's time to start your worksheet. So let me go ahead and exit out here really quick to show you how you're going to line your protractor up with the angle. So first off, you'll notice these angles have been highlighted. So if you have not done that, please pause the video and highlight your angles. Then you take the protractor and you line up the center origin here with the vertex, and then also make sure that right here, the ray of the angle is on that line. See how it's going through 0 and 180. And then we're going to measure this angle. I would like you to try to measure angle 1 and see what you get. Okay, the angle type is obtuse, And once we put the protractor on here, we start at 0. We're using the inner scale. So we're going 120. You're going to count 125, 126, 127, and it's 128. Reasonable answers would also be 127 or 129, but 128 being the most exact. Okay, please write down the type of angle that number 2 is and then measure it. It's an acute angle, and when you line up your protractor, you should be using, once again, the inner scale. We're at 10, 20, and then we're going to go to 25, 26, 27. Other answers would be within 1 degree, but 27 being the most exact. Please try number 3. Once it's an acute angle. On this one now, we're on the other side of the protractor. This ray is going to line up. So we're using the outer scale because 0 is here. And we're going to get to 70, 75, 76, 77, 78. Also reasonable because this one is slightly in between, would be 79 or even 77. Please try number 4. You might be able to guess what number 4 is without using a protractor, but you should use your protractor to confirm that it is a right angle and it is 90 degrees. Please try number 5. This is an obtuse angle, and when you put the protractor on here, you'll notice we are starting on the outer scale going all the way around. So we're at 170, 171, 172, 173. I would also accept 172 or 174, but 173 being the most exact. Okay, now we're going to be creating angles we're going to be given the measurement using our protractor. So if we go to number 6, and I have my protractor here, you're going to line up the protractor with the vertex and the ray, just like this. And then it tells us it wants an angle that's 55 degrees. So you're going to go to 55, and right above it, you're going to put a little dot there. Okay, and I'll show you this again on the PowerPoint. You're going to move your protractor out of the way, so there should be a dot there, which I can't unfortunately draw on Word here. But you would take a ruler and connect the vertex with the dot that you drew. So once again, you're going to put the protractor, line up the vertex and the ray, and then you're going to put a dot where 55 is. Okay, we're counting from 0 to 55 this way. And then you're going to take the protractor away and draw a straight line using a ruler, and don't forget your arrow. Okay, for number 7, please try to draw an angle that is 130 degrees. So on this one, once again, we're starting at 0 using the outer scale. You're going all the way over to 130 here, putting a dot, and then connecting it with a straight line and arrow. 8, it says we're going to create a right angle. This time we're lining up with the ray on the right side, put a dot where 90 degrees is, and connect it with a straight line and an arrow. Now you're on to the back of the worksheet. So looking at number 1, it says the pair of angles you created above are called supplementary angles. So you need to create a pair of angles. How you're going to do that is you're going to look at number 1 here, and you're going to draw a diagonal line from the vertex anywhere on this straight angle. So it could look like that, it could look like that, it could look like that. And then so you just want to have one line you've drawn, and now you have 2 angles. You have an angle here, and you have an angle here. So these pair of angles are called supplementary angles. So once you've drawn your line, wherever it may be, you need to take your protractor, measure this angle, and then measure the other angle on this side. And then you need to write down what the measures of the angles you created are on the worksheet. And then you need to answer what is the sum of the angles you created. Working with your partner, you might have different angle measures, but the sum should still be the same. Now you're on to number 2. So you're going to do something similar like you did in number 1, and you're going to create a pair of angles with this right angle, and the pair of angles you create are called complementary angles. So you're going to start at the vertex, and you're going to draw a straight diagonal line in the middle of this that will create two angles. So for example, now if you drew it like this, you're going to have this angle from here to here, and then you're also going to have the angle from here to here. So you can draw the line anywhere you want. And then once you have drawn this line, you're going to use your protractor to measure this angle and to measure this angle. And please write the angle measurements on the picture here. So down here, you're also going to write down what the measurements of the two angles are that you created. And then you're going to answer this question: what is the sum of the two angles that you created? And once again, you and your partner might have, a different line drawn. So your angle measures for part A will be different, but the sum of the two angles should be the same. Now we're down to number 3. So you're going to take your protractor. You might want to highlight this angle here, angle A, and then you're going to line up the protractor with the ray, and you're going to measure angle A and put the answer here. And then you're going to measure angle B and put your answer here, and then see if you notice anything about A and B. You and your partner should compare. You should both have the same degree angle for A, and you should have the same measure for angle B. After you do that, please measure angle C and then measure angle D and put those measurements on the lines for part B and see what you notice about the measures of angle C and angle D. And then please continue the worksheet. It'll say, what do you think will be true about angles M and N? So over here, you have angle M and you have angle N, and I want you to make a theory. You take a mathematical guess as to what you think will be true about angles M and N. And then I would like you to measure them and see if your theory was correct. And last, for part E, angles A and B, angles C and D, angles M and N are called vertical angles, and vertical angles have a special relationship. What do you think is true about all vertical angles?